Hi. So today I want to talk about the 6 things that creativity. Yeah, creativity. Hi. So today we're going to talk about the big she. Hello. Hello. Hi. Today we're going to talk about the big C word. No, not that one. Get your head out of the gutter. We're going to talk about creativity. What a wonderful word. What is it? What is creativity? You hear a lot that people are either born with it or they're Maybelline. Sorry, I had to. That people are either born with it, they either have it or they don't. Is that true? What is it? I have done a little bit of research and a little bit of reflecting and figured out the 6 main components of what creativity is, in my personal opinion, of course. So creativity is elusive, isn't it? Sometimes you hear people say a lot, oh God, I don't have a creative bone in my body. But in reality, don't they though? Don't they? So let's talk about that. By the end of this video, I am hoping that we will figure out, do the 6 parts that I have put together really make up creativity? Do you have any of them? Do you agree with what I am saying and my conclusions? Do you have anything to contribute? If you do, I would love to hear what your understanding of creativity is. Do you think you're creative? Which ones of these 6 components do you possess? And do you think that we need to have all 6 to really be considered a creative person? So that is what we're going to do today. If you are new here, hi, my name is Mila. I am an artist and designer and a owner of a company called Mila and Such. And that is a place where I create my designs of silk accessories, scarves, masks, and they're made from my drawings, illustrations, and paintings. So if you want to check them out, you can check them out here at neimanmarcus.com or here at mila-such.com. So what is creativity? Creativity, in my opinion, consists of 6 important things. Math is not one of my strong suits. Those 6 things are: number 1, curiosity; number 2, contributions; number 3, connections; number 4, compassion; number 5, charisma; number 6, courage. Now, sometimes, you're like, okay, well, what do you mean charisma and courage? Well, let me tell you. Let's start with the very first one. Now, I am going to talk and break these 6 parts down for you while I am putting some makeup on. There's really not like a look that I'm creating. It's just going to be makeup and we'll see what happens, right? We're going to start with curiosity. And why is curiosity an important part of being a creative, besides the fact that they both start with the C? Curiosity is important in the creative process because through many papers that I have read and a lot of research that I have, I think I should zoom you in. Do you want to get closer? Let me do that. Closer. Oh, too close. Okay, this is good. So curiosity. What does it mean when a person is curious? When a person is curious, they're observant. Curious people like to figure out how things work. Why? Why do they work that way? Curious people a lot of times are something that we call autodidacts. Autodidact. And what that basically means is that they are self-motivated. Those are the people who want to learn new things. They're curious about them. Another thing that kind of fits under the aspect of curiosity is being a polymath. What is a polymath, you ask? Well, thank you for asking. A polymath is a person who is really good at something, like super duper good. And usually polymaths are people who are good at least 3 things. They are exceedingly on top of that particular skill. They're one of the top people who others consider to refer to. They're really smart, okay? They're just really smart. The other thing that's super important and contributes to creativity is wanting to contribute to society. Contribution. What is my contribution? What am I going to leave behind? It is a huge drive for a lot of creative people. I think Many are like super in touch with their feeling of mortality. So they're like aware that their time will end, and they want to leave a mark. They want to leave some kind of a change, create something interesting that will be remembered by generations to come. And there is a little bit of ego involved with that, isn't there? Yes, there is. They want to make sure that they're remembered. They want to make sure, oh my God, I'm so yellow. They want to make sure that they make a difference in the world. It is not just like, a difference. It's an actual contribution. Changing something for the better, being remembered. A lot of the way that creative people look at having contribution to society is they want to produce new and useful things. That's really kind of what creativity is. You want to make something new that hasn't been seen before, and you want to make sure that it is something useful. This goes for art as well, for artists and inventors and scientists and a lot of creatives. Like, we want to influence this world in an impactful way. It's hard. It is difficult to do that. The reason I'm looking over here is because my mirror over here. Okay, I'm just saying. So the interesting thing about people who want to contribute is, and besides them wanting to create a better world, and besides them wanting to influence it, and besides them wanting to make changes, I found a lot of creatives just are terrified of being forgotten, of disappearing from existence, never to be remembered again. It is something that definitely like motivated me as far as creating and leaving something beautiful behind that maybe others will remember me by. I know my father is the same way. He's like, I want to leave something that people will look at and say, wow, that is beautiful. Oh, and Michael did that, I mean, there's a little bit of ego involved for sure, but it doesn't have to, it's not necessarily in a negative way. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. So we have so far gone through curiosity and why that's important. Being curious leads you to wanting to figure out how things work, why they work. It leads to you being observant. Then we hit upon people who want to contribute to society, make changes, and the fact that a lot of the creatives are terrified of being forgotten. The next one I want to hit is the third C, which is creative people make connections. They make connections between things that are not normally seen, that are not normally visible, that are kind of unique. They have a unique way of looking at things and then finding how those things mesh together. And then because of that, they're able to create something completely new, something that people haven't seen before. And sometimes things are created and people are like, oh my God, that is so cool. That's genius, because, they kind of get it. And then the other times someone will create something and people are like, oh my God, that's awful, or like, I don't get it at all. So I remember reading an article where it said genius is divided into, genius and madness is two things that are very, very closely related. Genius is when you create something new that everybody goes, wow, I get it. And madness is when somebody creates something and people are just like, I don't get it, but doesn't necessarily mean that it's not innovative and it's not interesting. Anyway, I thought that was kind of cool. One. Oh my God, that's a lot. Let's get that a little bit less intense. So, connections. Like I said, it is making connections between things generally people don't see a relationship between. A lot of that is influenced by how good your memory is, because I feel like those people who are able to create those connections have to keep that knowledge in their brain. They have to remember it, they have to store it, and then they have to be able to access it. So I think having a good memory is definitely a plus for those who are creatives. Although, let me tell you, my memory sucks, and I'm still able to sort of squeeze myself into the creative hole. So it's good to have. I think it's a lot more important when you're doing more scientific creations, more scientific focused creativity. So memory is one of the factors. The other one is exposure. So people say that the more exposed you are, the more stimulated your brain is, the more you see around you, the more you actually are able to make these interesting connections between things that otherwise you wouldn't see as being related to one another. So I feel like it's important to read, to explore, and sometimes we can't financially. There's difficulties with being able to travel or to go somewhere, and monetarily it could be an issue too. But YouTube, documentaries, books is a huge contributor to people exposing themselves to things that otherwise they wouldn't be able to see. But I actually have a bit of a problem with that part of being able to connect things. I have heard and I've researched several artists who have created some incredible, I'm talking about artists though, not like, again, not scientific stuff, but more artistic stuff. You have artists like Maria Primachenko, who I spoke about, and she had created some incredible things. She's made some animals, she's created animals, she's drawn art that is like completely out of this world. She was not exposed to a lot. It wasn't like she was able to travel and see the world and be, really well versed and well read. She lived in a small village in Ukraine, but at the same time, she had an incredible imagination. So I think a lot of times those connections that your brain is able to make, it's also very important to have that imagination to be able to see things that are, not really there, that can only live in your imagination. It was said that people who can imagine things in their mind's eye are to be the ones who have a really good imaginations. My friend Ivy actually brought this to my attention. She said, did you know that some people can't imagine like an object or an idea that if you tell them, for example, I say apple, right? So like in my mind's eye, I'm able to see an apple. It's round, it's red. I see the colors, I see the texture. It's shiny. And a lot of times she was telling me through her research that people cannot do that. So people who are somewhat limited with imagining those kinds of things or seeing them in their mind's eye, like have a difficult time understanding when you ask them to imagine something and without it actually being there, just kind of like boop, conjure it up from your memory. So that is kind of interesting. When you're able to form those connections, a lot of creatives have their eureka moment, like eureka. What is eureka? Eureka is a Greek word for I found it or I realized it, which is kind of cool. So those eureka moments is what most creatives are looking for. They're searching for. They want the eurekas. They want the I found it. I found it. I figured it out. It is something unique, something new. It's going to make me famous. It's going to make me a lot of money. Eureka. Yay. That probably also has a little bit of something to do with it. I don't know. Another interesting thing that I was looking at was how our mind works with the way our thoughts are sort of weaved together. Our thoughts can be either convergent or divergent. Now, convergent thoughts are a way we're thinking of in sequence. It is something where you start with an idea and then you just, in a linear way, come up with the best, or sometimes even the only possible outcome. Now, divergent thinking is something that's contributed to a lot of artists, is thinking sort of like in a web, right? You start with an idea and then you kind of, it's like a bubble map. Start with the main idea and then you come up with as many other ideas that are related. And the interesting thing is that you need both. You need both because you need to be able to come up with a lot of different ideas, connect them together, and then follow that idea from beginning to the end of executing it. So that's really super important. The next thing I want to talk about, which is super important, is compassion. Compassion, being altruistic, is a huge contributor to creativity. I've read and listen to an amazing lecture that I'm going to link below for you guys to see from a psychologist. Just so amazing. She spoke about how in her experiment, most of the artists, most of the creatives were super empathetic. They were able to look at where someone's coming from and kind of feel their pain. A lot of inventions were created because a person realized that someone else is suffering, or that a group of people are suffering, and they try to alleviate that suffering. It was incredible to read about people like Earl Haas, who in 1930s created the first tampon. And he did it because his wife, he saw how much his wife suffered, and he wanted her to have more of a normal life, to be able to go outside and and just be part of society, because back then women were pretty much stuck in the house when they were having their monthlies. They weren't able to go out, and they weren't able to do a lot of things. They was always tied to having to clean themselves. And an interesting thing that I found was that in 1950s, another creative and another inventor by the name of Mary Davis was the first Black woman who came up with pads for women. I don't know how we just went completely into like the whole menstrual thing. Sorry. So what she did was she created the first, it was like a menstrual pad belt that had a non-leaking pocket, and what you did was you would wear it around your waist and you would put like whatever you need to put. Am I getting too graphic? Is that kind of gross? I'm sorry. Anyway, let me just say that she was the first Black inventor to have come up with this idea, but unfortunately back then, I think she actually came up with it in the 1940s, but the patent didn't go in until 1956, because when she originally came up with it, she wasn't able to do anything. She was a woman and she was Black, and back then, no, she just didn't have the money, and nobody really listened to her, tried to help her, or allowed her to, to even put a patent in for it, and nobody really backed her in making this invention a reality. And I'm sure a lot of women would have appreciated it. Another artist that I have found was super compassionate was an Italian artist by the name of Antonio Pacitti. And Antonio Pacitti lived in the 1930s. He went through hell and back. His family was super poor. His father was anti-fascist. And because of that, they had to move and hide. And he grew up like hungry and just in a very poor environment. And because of that, his art always showed and called for compassion, and he brought attention to poverty and discrimination through his artwork. I really enjoyed reading about him. Maybe I'll do a Makers and Makeup Monday on him. I don't know. Let me know. Let me know if you want to hear more about him. The next trait I wanted to talk about, the next creative C that we're going to hit on, is charisma. And what is charisma? And when I chose this word to describe the creative brain, I know I was like, but I really believe that it is important. Now, charisma is not necessarily what we think of today, like someone who's charismatic is like super outgoing and fun and just like knows how to talk to people and everybody loves them, and they say charismatic leaders, right? So charisma is that in the modern understanding of the word, but it actually came from a Greek word which means gift. And charisma is, and they say creativity is the ultimate charisma, which is the ultimate gift. And the gift that you get with creativity, we have lots of gifts if someone is creative, right? You can have the gift of having a talent, being artistic, or you have a gift of seeing mathematical patterns just kind of come together, a gift of looking at science and having things pop out at you and, making great discoveries, the gift of observation. The charisma can be used for to describe a creative mind in both of those terms. I feel like a lot of artists, a lot of creative people are charismatic in the current modern traditional way as well, because they're able with their personalities explain and express what their vision is. The funny thing that many creative people are charismatic and outgoing when others are present in public, but it is sometimes something of an effort for them. They're more introverts than they are extroverts. I've noticed a lot of literature, a lot of in the interviews again that I have read that mention that part as well. How are we doing with our makeup? I don't know. It looks all right. By the way, I got a new hole. Concentrate. This is my ADHD is a B. Back to creativity. So the last thing I want to talk about when it comes to creativity is courage. Having strength is a huge part of being a creative person, because your ideas are most probably going to be not seen before, right? So your ideas are going to be unique. Your ideas as a creative, as an artist, as a scientist, mathematician, whatever, if you really come up with something unique, it is going to be scary. It'll be exciting, but it can also be very scary because you're putting a piece of yourself out there. You're putting out there something that hasn't been seen before. You're always risking the fact that, somebody is not going to understand you, misunderstand you, or just be cruel. I mean, let's be real. People are cruel. Not all the time, but, they are. A lot of times people don't understand. When they don't understand something, they're going to attack it, unfortunately, or criticize it. There's a lot of good people out there. It is so hard to talk and put on liner. So hold on 1 second. There's a lot of people out there who take pleasure in tearing others down. And it is always a risk. And I mean, by definition, when you are courageous, you're brave, you are overcoming pain, you're overcoming strife, whatever. It is having the strength to overcome pain. It is your ability to do something that is difficult. It is your ability to do something that frightens you, more importantly, something that frightens you, and you still do it for whatever reason, whether, it's any of the other C's that are just driving you. So many times a creative person cannot help themselves. Like, you just gotta do it. You have to create. New ideas pop in your head. You're excited to share them. And with that, of course, comes feeling of being frightened. And interestingly enough, when you're frightened and when you overcome it and you show that courage, you're taking a huge risk, like we were just talking. It's a huge risk. But in any case, so you have someone who is taking risks, and with risks, there is always going to be the possibility, a very large possibility of failing. And all the other good stuff, all the criticism, people who are just, mean or who misunderstand, people who just want to tear you down. And after a while, when you are driven to do these things that you're driven to do, and you keep putting yourself out there as a creative individual, and hearing all of those negative things really affect you. They say that creatives a lot of times suffer from mental health issues like depression, like anxiety, like, having things like ADHD or other personality disorders. But honestly, like, if you think about it, if you're constantly taking chances and putting yourself out there and you're being criticized, even the happiest of people are going to be a little upset and depressed. It doesn't mean that you're a depressed person. It just means that you have these times when you feel the weight of that. You feel the weight of having, of being courageous and not being afraid and having to take all of that stuff into your heart. So I definitely can see where that comes from. I can definitely see also that a lot of creative people in the olden days have ideas that are unique. They had those strange connections, that had those unique ways of tying things together, and they were looked at like they were nuts, like they were crazy, because many people didn't understand them. They thought that they were just like, something wasn't right. So anyway, that is my conclusion about the 6 C's that make up the creative aura, the creative mind set. Yeah, I think so. These are the building blocks that I think are super important. Now, you let me know what you think. You let me know if you believe that you need all of those 6 things to be considered a creative, or to have, creativity. Let me know if you believe that some are more important than others, and why. Do you think that you are a creative person? I'll be super excited to look at some of the things that you guys have created. You can leave me your comments below. You can tag your Instagrams, and I will go and take a look. And the funny thing is also that creativity has exploded in the last few years with all the social media that is now available. Creative people are able to put out their ideas. They're able to express themselves. We can see all the makeup artists creating some incredible looks. We can see all the visual artists and designers and just even girls and boys who are able to just create like a really aesthetically pleasing Instagram page, and everything just looks really nice. I think that is super creative. But in any case, leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. I would love to hear your thoughts. Let me know if you want more of these kinds of videos. I have finished my look, and it is not bad. If it looks like I have more makeup now that I had before, it is because you are right and very observant. My camera has died, just went off. Thank you so much for coming here. Thank you so much for watching and supporting, and not supporting, just being here. That means a world. Thank you so much. Mwah, mwah, mwah.